Stop chasing her. Instead, say nothing at all, and watch her start thinking about you all day, every day. The quiet move is the one she never sees coming, but it's the most powerful trigger to make her obsessed. You've probably noticed this before. When you give a woman too much attention, she loses interest fast. But when you suddenly pull back and stop responding, she starts wondering what happened. She checks her phone more often, tries to figure you out, and suddenly, you're all she can think about. This isn't magic or luck. It's a deep psychological trick you can use to flip the script and make her want you more than ever. Today, I'm breaking down exactly why going quiet works, how to do it right, and how to avoid the mistakes that kill attraction. Stop chasing her. It sounds too simple, maybe even too good to be true, but sometimes the best way to make a woman obsessed with you is to say nothing at all. When you suddenly go quiet, you create a powerful, almost magnetic pull that she won't be able to resist. It's like flipping a switch inside her mind, making her wonder where you went, what you're thinking, and why you aren't chasing her like before. The truth is, this silence triggers something deep in her psychology, a mix of curiosity, uncertainty, and even fear of loss that no amount of texts or calls can replicate. Most guys don't get this. They think the key to attraction is to be everywhere at once, texting all day, reacting to every story, calling her nonstop. But that just pushes her away. When you're too available, she loses interest. The chase disappears, and with it, the spark. So many guys fall into this trap because they confuse attention with value. They believe if they don't constantly pursue, they'll be forgotten. But the opposite is true. When you pull back just right, you create a gap that she can't ignore. That space between you is where obsession begins. But going quiet isn't as easy as it sounds. It's not about ghosting or disappearing without explanation. If you do that, you risk her losing all interest or thinking you don't care. What you need is a smart kind of silence, a controlled withdrawal that keeps her wondering without pushing her away completely. Imagine texting with her like usual, but then you start to reply less often, keep your answers short, and stop initiating conversations. She'll notice right away. At first, she might try to get your attention, sending more messages or asking if you're upset. The key here is not to panic or over-explain. Stay calm, keep your distance, and don't give in too quickly. Let her feel that your presence is no longer guaranteed. This isn't just about playing hard to get. It's about signaling confidence and self-control. When you go quiet, you're showing that you don't need her attention to feel good about yourself. That vibe of having your own life, your own goals, and not being desperate is incredibly attractive. Women pick up on this energy without needing words. It's the same reason why people value things that aren't always available. If something's easy to get, it feels less special. But if it's rare, mysterious, or hard to reach, it instantly becomes more desirable. There's a natural psychological reason for this. Our brains are wired to notice what disappears suddenly. If someone you like vanishes from your daily life, your mind starts searching for answers. You wonder why they pulled back, what they're doing, and if they still care. This uncertainty triggers the fear of loss, which is one of the strongest drivers of desire. The more you pull away without cutting off completely, the more she will obsess over what she might lose. This is the foundation of the silent move that flips attraction upside down. Now, this isn't theory or guesswork. It works because it taps into primal emotions. Think about when you lose something valuable, or when someone important to you suddenly becomes distant. Your brain responds by increasing focus on that person or thing. This happens without you realizing it. It's a survival mechanism that helps us keep track of what matters most. So by going quiet, you're activating that deep emotional response in her, making her think about you nonstop. But the silent move requires patience. You can't just disappear and then expect her to be begging for your attention the next day. It takes time for the gap to feel real and for her mind to fill it with thoughts of you. And during this time, it's important to resist the urge to check her social media obsessively, send random messages, or act jealous. Those behaviors ruin the effect because they show you're not in control of your own emotions. Instead, focus on your own life, your goals, and the things that make you happy. This energy of living well without her is the silent signal that makes you even more irresistible. When you do this right, something almost magical happens. She starts reaching out more, sending those texts that you used to send her, asking questions, and trying to reconnect. She may even bring up past memories or jokes you shared, anything to bridge that silence. This is her way of chasing you without admitting it. The best part is that now you hold the power in the dynamic. You decide when to respond, how much to share, and whether to meet up. And because she's the one now working harder to keep your attention, her feelings grow deeper and more intense. I remember hearing about a guy who was always the one initiating with this girl. He was texting her multiple times a day, calling her, making plans, and honestly, getting nowhere. Frustrated, he tried the quiet move. He stopped texting first, replied only when she messaged him, and kept his answers short but friendly. Within a week, she was texting him first, asking him what was going on, and even telling her friends how confusing and interesting he suddenly became. She wasn't chasing him before, now she was obsessed. That's the power of silence, the move she never sees coming. Once she notices the shift in your energy, she'll begin to overanalyze everything. Every old message, every interaction, every moment you shared, suddenly, it all feels more meaningful to her. Why? Because now there's space for reflection. When you're always present, she doesn't have to think. But when you're quiet, her brain fills in the blanks. She starts to wonder if she messed up, if you lost interest, or if someone else has your attention. That quiet from you? It creates noise inside her head. She'll replay moments to try and understand what changed. She'll scroll through her phone looking for clues. She'll become her own investigator, trying to solve the mystery that is now you. And the more unpredictable you become, the more intense her reaction will be. You don't need to be rude, cold, or fake. Just don't be predictable. When you were available 24/7, she could almost schedule your responses like a clock. Now, she has no idea when or even if you'll reply. That's the kind of unpredictability that fuels obsession. It keeps her guessing, keeps her mind locked on you. Remember, people don't obsess over clarity. They obsess over confusion, uncertainty, and emotional puzzles they haven't solved yet. If she feels like you've pulled back and she doesn't fully understand why, her natural reaction is to lean in. This is exactly why going quiet works better than any long text or emotional speech. Words can be ignored. Silence? That's loud in her mind. It's unsettling in just the right way. Silence isn't the absence of interest. It's the presence of power. And women pick up on this kind of emotional power fast. She might test you by acting like she doesn't care. She might post stories that look like she's having the time of her life without you. Or she might mirror your silence to see if you'll cave. But those are surface level reactions. Deep down, she's watching your every move, wondering what it all means. During this phase, it's crucial that you don't break character, because the moment you reach out just to get her attention back, everything resets. She realizes you were just pretending. That's why most guys fail. They can't sit in the discomfort of silence long enough to let it work. They panic, they think it's not working, and then they message her with some lame excuse just to reopen the door. But now she knows, you were bluffing. And worse, she knows she still has control. So instead of regaining power, you give it right back. You can't build obsession that way. The whole point of going quiet is to stay quiet long enough for her to feel it, react to it, and come to you on her own. Now here's the twist. While she's losing her mind over your silence, you're not just sitting around doing nothing. You're using this time to build yourself up. You're leveling up mentally, emotionally, even physically. Maybe you start going to the gym more consistently, working on your goals, spending time with friends, or exploring new hobbies. That inner transformation amplifies the effect of your silence, because the next time she sees you or hears about you, she won't just see a guy who pulled back. She'll see a guy who evolved, who moved forward without her, and who might not even want her back anymore. That realization hits hard. It's like this. Silence creates the space, but your growth fills it. And together, those two things create an emotional contrast that's impossible to ignore. She'll think, how did he go from texting me all the time to becoming this confident, self-contained man who doesn't even seem to need me anymore? That contrast is what makes her want you more. Not the old you, but the new you who emerged through silence and self-focus. She'll remember how she used to be the center of your world, and now she's not. That shift flips the dynamic entirely. Let me give you a real-world example. There was this guy who was madly into a girl who liked him back, but not enough to commit. She kept things casual, acted distant, and always had some excuse. He kept trying, thinking that if he just showed her how much he cared, she'd eventually open up. But she didn't. So finally he stopped. Not in a petty way, not with anger. He just went silent. No more chasing, no more calls. Instead, he focused on himself. New job, better fitness, tighter circle. 3 weeks later, she texted him at midnight, drunk and emotional. "I miss you," she said. "I've been thinking about you every day." She couldn't take the silence anymore. She was so used to him being there that when he wasn't, her entire emotional balance shifted. That's how you create obsession without saying a word. And here's what most men overlook. Obsession doesn't start with what you say to a woman. It starts with what she feels when you're not saying anything at all. If she doesn't feel your absence, then you were never truly present to begin with. But when your silence leaves a hole in her world, that's when she realizes how much you meant to her. That's when her mind starts spinning. Because women don't get emotionally attached to guys who are always begging for attention. They get attached to the ones who pull back with strength, who create space with purpose, and who make their presence valuable by not offering it for free. You've got to remember, mystery is addictive. If she can't figure you out, if she's not sure what you're thinking, if she's constantly wondering where your head is at, she's hooked. It's not about playing games. It's about understanding how human desire actually works. We don't chase what's always available. We chase what's slightly out of reach. That's why going quiet works. Because it makes her feel something she wasn't prepared to feel, the loss of your attention. And the moment she starts missing it, that's when the tables turn. At this stage, her emotions begin to override her logic. Even if she's been telling herself that she's fine, that she doesn't need you, or that she has other options, her mind won't stop spinning. That silence you gave her, it becomes a mirror she's forced to look into. And when a woman stares into that silence long enough, she starts seeing parts of herself she hadn't acknowledged. Maybe she realizes how much she liked having you around. Maybe she starts wondering why she never appreciated your attention. Or worse, maybe she starts imagining you giving that same energy to someone else. And that's what really gets her. The thought that you're quiet might mean you've moved on. It's unbearable to her ego. Now she has to confront a scary idea. What if she's lost you for good? That idea keeps her awake at night. She'll check her phone and pretend not to care, but her mind is on fire with questions she can't answer. Where are you? Who are you talking to? Are you really done? You've flipped the script so completely that she's now the one chasing clarity. And here's the best part. You haven't had to say a single word. That's the kind of impact real masculine energy has. It's not about what you do, it's about what you choose not to do. You didn't fight, you didn't beg, you didn't send emotional texts. You simply vanished into your purpose, and that silence made more noise than any words ever could. But here's where things get interesting. Most women are not used to men doing this. They're used to men chasing, trying, proving themselves. So when you break that pattern, it shakes her. It forces her to recalibrate her image of you. Maybe she thought you were weak, emotional, too invested, but now she sees something else. Restraint, discipline, control. And that new image is what sparks respect, because respect is the foundation of desire. Without it, nothing else lasts. Once she starts seeing you as a man who doesn't need her validation to feel valuable, her whole perspective changes. You've now become someone she has to earn back. There's a psychology behind this that's easy to miss. When a person thinks they've lost something of value, the brain automatically assigns more worth to it. It's a survival response. Scarcity triggers craving. It's the same reason people want what they can't have. When your presence becomes scarce, her mind interprets that as value. She starts fantasizing about what it was like to talk to you, to hear from you, to get your attention. She might even start romanticizing moments that didn't seem that special at the time. That one message you sent? Suddenly she's reading it over and over. That night you talked for hours? Now it feels like a memory she never appreciated enough. And that's the key. You want her to feel like she fumbled something valuable. Because the moment she thinks that, she'll start chasing. But again, it's not about revenge or manipulation. This isn't a game you're playing to win her back. It's a mindset shift. You're showing her what it feels like to live without your energy, and you're letting her decide what to do with that. The beauty of going quiet is that it puts the ball entirely in her court, while you stay grounded and focused on your life. You've taken the pressure off yourself to convince her of anything. You don't need her to see your worth. You know it. And that self-belief radiates through your silence louder than any confession of feelings ever could. And the more secure you become during this process, the more she feels the shift. In the beginning, she might have had all the power. You were the one checking your phone, waiting for replies, wondering where you stood. But now, the roles are reversed. Now she's the one doing all of that. That's what silence does. It transfers emotional pressure. And here's something else that happens when you go quiet. You force her to confront what her life looks like without your attention. At first, she might enjoy the freedom, but over time, that freedom starts to feel like emptiness. All the little things she took for granted, your compliments, your presence, your attention, now they're gone. And when she looks around and sees they're not coming from anyone else, that gap starts to hurt. You're not trying to make her suffer. You're just letting her see what life is like when you remove your energy from her world. And for women who are used to attention, especially from men they know they can control, this is a brutal reality check. You've broken the pattern. You're no longer feeding her ego. You're no longer accessible. And most importantly, you're no longer emotionally available. That absence, it becomes a presence in her life, a constant reminder of what she no longer has. This is why emotional distance creates more attraction than emotional availability. You think that pouring your heart out will make her want you more. It won't. In fact, too much availability suffocates desire. But emotional distance, that creates oxygen. And people crave what gives them space to breathe and wonder. That's exactly what your silence provides. It gives her room to miss you, to want you, and to question her own decisions. And when she starts questioning herself, she starts valuing you in ways she never did before. What's important to understand is that you don't do this for her. You do it for you. You go quiet not because you're trying to make her feel something, but because you refuse to keep giving energy to someone who doesn't deserve it. You're reclaiming your time, your power, and your focus. And the irony is, the moment you do that for yourself, she starts wanting you more. Because now you're no longer the guy who needs her approval. You've become the man she has to chase, and trust me, once a woman starts chasing, it's not because you begged. It's because you walked away like a man who knows what he brings to the table. Now let's talk about what happens if you maintain this silence just a little longer. See, most men cave. They break the silence. They send a message. They check in. But when you don't, when you stay calm, grounded, and emotionally distant, that's when the real obsession begins. That's when she starts stalking your stories, replying to random posts, trying to trigger a response out of you. At first it's subtle. A like here, a view there, then it becomes more direct. She'll send a random meme. She'll say something that sounds innocent but is loaded with hidden meaning, just to see if you'll bite. But you don't. You remain a mystery. And that silence eats at her more than any angry message ever could, because silence says, I don't need you to understand. I've already moved on. This isn't just about dating. It's about power. Not control over someone else, but control over yourself. Most people spend their lives reacting, but you're doing the opposite. You're choosing stillness over reaction. You're choosing self-worth over desperation. That's what drives her crazy. That you had the discipline to walk away and the strength to stay quiet. That's what makes her rethink everything. She starts asking herself the questions she never asked before. Did I misjudge him? Was he always this strong? Did I lose something I didn't even understand? The longer you stay silent, the louder those questions become. And eventually, those questions turn into regret. She might try to replace you. She might post pictures with other guys. She might even start dating someone else. But deep down, none of it feels right, because no one else gives her the feeling you gave her. That mix of curiosity, challenge, and mystery, that's rare. You gave her something real, and now it's gone. That void can't be filled by just anyone. And when she realizes that, the obsession starts to deepen. She starts checking your page more than she checks her own. She starts remembering your voice, your words, your presence, and she starts wondering if she even has a shot at getting you back. But by this point, something has shifted in you too. You're no longer waiting. You've been growing. You've been working on your goals, your mindset, your life. You're not the same man who needed her attention to feel valuable. You've elevated. So if she ever comes back, and she probably will, you're now in a position of power, not to hurt her, not to gloat, but to choose. You can decide whether she fits into your life or not. And that's the ultimate level of attraction, when you have options, but you move with purpose. So if you're ever tempted to break the silence, remember this. She's already thinking about you, more than you know. She's already watching, already. Analyzing, already feeling the weight of your absence. You don't need to chase her. You don't need to convince her. You don't even need to remind her of your worth. Your silence has done all the work. It spoke volumes. It made her feel your absence in a way your words never could. And that's why she'll obsess. She'll remember the man who didn't beg, didn't chase, didn't plead. She'll remember the man who walked away with dignity and calm confidence. She'll remember how it felt when your energy disappeared and how badly she wanted it back. And even if she never says it out loud, even if she pretends not to care, deep down she'll know. She lost something rare. A man who knew his value. A man who didn't fold. A man who understood that sometimes the most powerful move you can make is to say absolutely nothing at all. Watch the next video.